We have some delicious food. We have a wonderful guest, and we'll introduce myself first. My name is Jeremy Capone. I'm the wellness chef here at ELLICSR.
And I'm Stephanie Gladman, the registered dietitian at ELLICSR.
And we have with us today Christine Collins. She's the vice chair from Kidney Cancer Canada. And we're so happy that you joined us today. And why don't you introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit more about Kidney Cancer Canada and what's going on. Perfect.
First, I'd like to say I'm so excited to be here. And it's nice that it's such a calm audience and that you're going to overlook all my mistakes.
Yeah.
I'll briefly talk about Kidney Cancer Canada. And I did speak to a few of you before to see if we did have kidney cancer patients in the audience. Kidney cancer is in the top 10 of cancers in Canada. 6,600 Canadians, approximate, were diagnosed with kidney cancer. And the one thing about kidney cancer is it's usually found incidentally. It's usually when you find it because you're suffering from pain or other symptoms, it's usually quite advanced. So we find many of our patients find it incidentally. So you might be going to the doctor for a stone or abdominal pain for something else, and you find the tumor. And hopefully it's small, because good news, if it's found early, treatment is usually 97% done by surgery when it's found early. So goes a little less well if you find a tumor that's like 13 centimeters, which we often do. And I'm rambling, sorry. But average diagnosis is around 64. It's not uncommon, like in their 50s, we're finding that more and more. But if it's less than 50 or 45 specifically, you might want to take a look and see if you're a candidate for genetic testing. Kidney cancer is usually not found in young people, and when it is, it's usually a key, and it might be a more specified type of kidney cancer that you need to pay more particular attention to. The most common is renal cell carcinoma, clear cell. And as I said, the treatment is usually surgery, so that usually goes well. They may take partial or full, depending on, it's so important to find the right doctor and that knows your disease. I can't emphasize that enough. You need to find a doctor that is good for you, and that's for all cancers. You need to find a doctor that will listen to you, that knows your disease, and can offer you the best treatments available, and they're changing all the time. Some of the materials that we offer, we have the top 10 tips for surviving and living with kidney cancer, because usually kidney cancer, unless you're cured with the surgery, it is a lifelong disease, and you are on treatment lifelong. Myself, I'm on active surveillance. I actually have a very small tumor, and I am blessed, not blessed to have cancer, but blessed to have the type of cancer that I have. I've been living 8 years, and my tumor is active. And that's the right treatment for me. It's not the right treatment for everybody, but it works for me and my team, and I pray that it will continue to do as well as it does. But that was my key. I found the right doctor and the right treatment. So I can only encourage all people with cancer to find that team that you need, that will support you and your decisions. We have a couple of materials that are really key. We have the early stage cancer booklet for kidney cancer. It is full of lots of great information when you're just starting out. We have a Get Active exercise and activity guide that we've put. It's kind of for kidney cancer, but you know what? It works for all cancers. It really is a great resource. We are almost out of the book now because it's been so popular, but go to www.kidneycancer.ca, and we can send you the materials if you're interested. We have peer support workers that will give you a call if you need to talk to somebody. There is tons of information on there. We have doctors speaking, patients speaking, so many resources. So I really encourage you, if you have kidney cancer, to go to the website, check us out, and give us a call. If you're not finding what you need on the website, please give us a call, and we will help you in any way we can. We are a patient-focused organization. Patients are our number one priority, and we want to make sure our patients are being looked after the best we can. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just put it there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so thank you again. We'll post all that information on the website. And for anyone here, if you did want to find out more information, Christine will be here and you can chat with her as well.
Yeah.
So we're ready to get
Yeah.
into the recipes?
Let's go to the good stuff.
Yes, all right.
So, as always, during treatment, there obviously are some side effects that can occur. Appetite loss, diarrhea, constipation, fatigue, taste changes. In some situations, this is related to the medications that one is taking. So the two side effects that are most common, the ones that we're going to be talking about today, are for those who are experiencing diarrhea and fatigue. Okay, so we'll talk about some ingredients and some foods to help with that. So for example, for diarrhea, that's kind of the loose stool. And so we're going to look at foods that are kind of more gentle on the stomach. That's looking at a diet that's low in fiber, low in fats, one that is dairy-free, and also looking at the different spices. Okay, so lots of heat, like chilies or red peppers, curry. This can make diarrhea worse. Yeah. So Jeremy has made a wonderful soup, especially since it's a little so cold outside, to kind of help get us started on what we could do to help manage those kinds of symptoms.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, so we're making a soup. Do you like soup?
I love soup.
All right.
Who doesn't like soup?
I know, it's a really rhetorical question. But we're making mushroom soup. We're trying to, go with the season as well.
Right.
And we wanted to make a nice, comforting, sort of creamy mushroom soup. Typically, most creamy mushroom soups, from the first word there, it will have dairy. It'll have either a cream or a milk or yogurt. So we wanted to create a nice creamy texture without the use of dairy.
Excellent.
So we're using a substitution, which I'll get to in a second. But for the base of our soup, like most soups, we want to start with flavor. We want to start with our aromatics. So I have our pot over medium heat. We'll have a little bit of oil, any vegetable oil. We're using olive oil. I think it's no surprise that I always use olive oil. And we're going to start with our two aromatics. So typical aromatics for soup, stocks, sauces, garlic and onion. So we're going to add those into our pot. Garlic and onion though. Yeah,
so for some people, this can make diarrhea worse. Garlic, onion, because of the different types of fibers that are in there. So Jeremy's going to show us a way on how you could still have the flavor of these ingredients, but not actually eat them.
Yeah, so if you are okay with garlic and onion,
add it in.
Add it in as you would. Chop up the onion. You can smash up the garlic, slice it. In our case, we really just want the flavor from the garlic and the onion. So what we'll do is use the whole clove, and you can just crack it just slightly. We don't want it to fall apart too much. We want it to stay intact, but we do want to bruise it so that we get a lot of that good garlic flavor out, and the allicin as well, right?
Yeah, so those are the...
you can smell it right away.
The smell and the stickiness, that's the antioxidants there. The anti-inflammatory properties that are better absorbed once they kind of get into contact with the oxygen in the air, and then they're better absorbed in your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
And it's just for kidney cancer, but it might be for all cancers, I'm not sure. Sometimes we find when we're cooking, or our loved ones are cooking for us, that the smells are actually putting us off.
Yes.
It's not so much that the eating is, but the cooking part of it. So it's good. We find that if you remove yourself from the cooking, like if you can, spend a little time outside, maybe on a deck or go up to your bedroom so you're not getting the immediate smells.
Yeah.
We find sometimes it helps that you don't feel ill, and you can then enjoy the food.
Definitely.
So it's just a tip to...
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great tip. Yeah, absolutely. If you have someone that can do a lot of the preparation cooking for you. Yeah. And then, garlic and onion are going to be some of your more potent ingredients. So you might want to definitely be out of the kitchen for that one. But we can add the onion and the shallot. The idea is that we don't want to cut it up. If we want to remove it after, just leave it whole and just add it to the oil. Okay? So what we're doing is we're actually flavoring the oil with our garlic and our onion. We're getting all that flavor in there. And we can just leave that in there for a couple minutes,
Okay.
just until you get some color. And then we can remove them afterwards, and you'll still have that flavor in there.
It's great to know.
So now for the mushrooms. I love cooking with mushrooms. I know we have some people that don't like mushrooms here, so I make sure that it really gets to them in their desk.
Good.
Yeah.
I had to ask Jeremy.
Yes.
These mushrooms look so fantastic and fresh.
Yes. I wish I could take credit for them, but no. These are just cremini mushrooms.
Okay.
We were talking before, and these are button mushrooms.
Okay.
You can find these. These are like your most common mushrooms you'll find at almost every grocery store. The cremini I find has a little bit more flavor, a little bit more intensity of that mushroom flavor.
Okay.
So it really depends on your preference. I'm mixing the two today because I think they work really well for the soup. The trick about cleaning them, I know there's a lot of sort of sites and you probably see videos and recipes that say don't wash them or don't run them underwater. Right. That's probably not the best idea. We want to make sure we're washing our vegetables really well. One thing you have to remember is that mushrooms are like over 90% water.
Right.
That number is probably not exactly accurate, but it's mostly water.
Mostly water, yeah.
So it's not really going to be absorbing a lot of water.
Okay.
So what I tend to do is I'll submerge them in a bowl of water
Okay.
and just sort of rub the dirt off.
Right.
And then dry them really well. As long as you
Okay.
dry them really well, then that's fine. You'll still get a nice tasty mushroom. It's not like a sponge. It's not gonna soak anything in.
Okay, that's good to know because I would have thought they'd been porous.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And the other note on that is that since they are mostly water, they actually are a vegetable that's low in fiber. So that's also going to be beneficial for people who are experiencing diarrhea. You want to kind of aim for kind of that lower fiber. It's easier on the stomach.
Perfect. So I'm just roughly chopping this up because this is going to be a pureed soup. It doesn't have to be perfect. The smaller that I cut them, the faster they're going to cook.
Okay.
If you're worried about time.
Okay.
And if you're not that comfortable with your knife skills, even though mushrooms I find one of the easiest vegetables to cut, if you do want to practice your knife skills, just get a bunch of mushrooms and start cutting because they're soft. You don't have to, it doesn't require too much energy.
Right.
But you can always use like a food processor or something just to like bash it up.
I also noticed you
little bit.
use the stems as well. You
Oh
use
yeah,
a whole
absolutely.
mushroom.
Whole mushroom. The very bottom, if it's like really dark, you can
Yeah.
just slice that off.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, the entire mushroom.
Great.
Perfect. So the mushrooms are ready to go.
Okay.
My olive oil in the pot has already
see.
been flavored,
Yeah.
so I can remove. Again, you can leave it if you're okay with garlic and onion, but if it does bother you, this is when I can remove it, right? And just give it to someone who likes garlic and onion. It's still very, very tasty. So we have our mushrooms in there. We're gonna add a little bit of chopped thyme. Any fresh herb is great. Again, we don't want to use the spicy
Yeah.
ingredients,
Yeah.
right? Because that might be bothersome. But anything that's going to add flavor, like fresh herbs, dried herbs.
Yeah.
There are even spices that aren't spicy that you can definitely add as well. A little bit of
Yeah.
like cumin or coriander would be really nice.
Yeah. And again, everyone's different, right? So I always encourage people to take note, assess what they're having, maybe write a food diary. And if you do notice that you are experiencing kind of more diarrhea, then you have to be your own kind of test as to what are the foods that work well for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we have the thyme in there. We have our mushrooms. I'm sure you guys can start to smell the mushroom
smells
a
so
little bit.
good.
So that's going. Now we want to think about our liquid.
Yes.
We're making a soup, obviously. So you can just, someone asked before, can I just use water instead of stock? You can absolutely just use water instead of stock. But if you do want to add a little bit more flavor, you can use, like a vegetable stock, a chicken stock, or we're going to make our own mushroom stock. Super quick and easy.
Okay.
Which is good for us because we want to save time.
Right.
So, Justine, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. You might mind.
You have no choice at this point.
Okay.
So, we're going to make a mushroom stock. Mushroom stocks, obviously for a mushroom soup, it's appropriate.
Yes.
But I use mushroom stocks even for other vegetable soups or any dish that I need a lot of flavor, but I don't have the time to make my own.
Okay.
Or I don't have like a store-bought one.
Yes.
readily available.
Yes.
We're gonna make a quick one, almost like making tea. We're using dried mushrooms.
Okay.
So dried mushrooms you can find, again, a lot of grocery stores. There's different varieties. They have shiitake, porcini. They give a lot of flavor, a lot of
Powerful
mushroom flavor, but a lot of
right.
sort of savory flavor.
Okay.
Not even just mushrooms, a lot of savory flavor.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is steep it,
Right.
like we would a tea. So if you don't mind, add the dried mushrooms.
Just the mushrooms?
Yeah,
Okay.
just the mushrooms to
And are these-
a jar.
And those are what kind?
These are porcini.
Okay.
Yes, but you can use any dried mushrooms. They're going to give a lot of flavor.
Okay.
The two highest in that sort of umami, we call it umami
Okay.
flavor, are porcini and shiitake. So those ones give sort of the best flavor.
Okay.
And then if you want any herbs or any other flavor, you can always add that as well. So I have some bay leaf
Into the
here.
stock.
Yeah, into the stock. So you kind of just stick it all in there.
So you
can-
want the bay
Yeah,
leaf?
so we'll throw the bay leaf in.
Okay.
And before we throw it in, what you want to do
Oh.
is kind of, bruise it.
Oh, okay. My family is going to expect.
Oh, it's okay. That one's gone. Don't worry about it. This one.
Yeah.
So bruising dried herbs helps to open up the aromas.
Okay.
Again, it wakes them up a little bit.
So if you were doing a stew, you'd want to do that too?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes we just like throw the bay leaf in.
Oh man, I can smell it.
Yeah. So on your fingers, you're probably gonna
Yeah.
smell it too. It really, really starts to open it up a little bit.
Great.
So bay leaf, if you have time, like whatever dry herbs you have and you like, you can throw them in.
Okay.
Like peppercorns,
Yeah.
throw those in. I have tomato paste on hand all the time.
Yes.
This is another sort of umami, savory
Okay.
flavor punch. So we're gonna add a little bit of this as well.
Okay.
And you can just squeeze it in.
Tell me when.
It's like the end of the toothpaste. You gotta just, not too much,
Just a little bit?
yeah.
More?
Yeah, a little bit more than that. Here, we'll clean that
It's all right. Don't have to worry.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm
up.
good.
It's okay, see, now,
I can't even see
yeah.
now. Okay.
You've been, you've graduated.
Initiated.
I've been initiated. I have
into the
baptism
kitchen.
here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
That makes it fun.
So, try to get most of it in the jar, but we did. And that's it. And then we're gonna just
okay.
cover it with some water, some hot
Boiling
water.
water?
Yeah.
Okay. You know that my family is all laughing at home
That's
now
good.
because this is what
That's good.
more?
Oh, fill it
all
up,
the way
fill it
up.
up all the way to the top.
Because this is I usually wear when I'm cooking.
It's always good to be a part of the food.
Yes.
Perfect.
The love,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Put my soul, my heart,
You bet.
ruin my clothing.
That's okay.
So that's pretty much it. And you would
Okay.
just stir this and let it
want me
steep.
to do that for
Yeah, you can just gently stir it, but otherwise you can. That's it.
Oh, you don't have to do anything more.
That's it.
Yeah, 'cause you're just
Very
steeping
super,
it
super
out.
easy. So it's starting to turn a
Yeah.
little bit darker.
I can see, yeah.
And I did one earlier. If you let it steep for like 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
it gets really, really, really dark.
Okay.
And it becomes extremely flavorful from the mushrooms,
Uh-huh.
and it's ready to use. So again, if you don't have the time, really, really quick cheat, just a small handful with a liter of water, and you're good.
So if you made your stock and
Yes.
say that it was too strong for you or too
Yes.
strong a flavor for the patient, you could dilute it with water?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, you can dilute it for sure.
And a nice thing also here is that when you're making your own stock, you're controlling how much sodium is in. A lot of the store-bought, pre-made ones have lots of sodium. This is something that you do want to watch out for. So in this situation, we just have the dried mushrooms and water and some herbs, and there's no added sodium. But again, of course, you can, if you didn't want to make it, you can purchase one. And these days, you could just look for a reduced sodium, no added sodium on the food label.
We've made it so easy. And that's a great point that you brought up about, regulating sodium, and a lot of people have to regulate sugar. Sometimes you find added sugar and things in the products that you buy in the store. So this is an ideal way of overcoming that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So stock goes in, liquid goes in, or whatever you're using. I'm going to add just a splash of balsamic vinegar. This is
Okay.
optional. This is going to give you some nice flavor as well, and that a little bit of acidity will brighten it up. So it's a little bit in there, And then the last thing is we're gonna add our rice. So
Okay.
we're adding white rice. We're using white rice today.
Yeah, and that's also something that's low in fiber as well. So again, something that's gentle on the stomach for those experiencing diarrhea, potentially from medication. And so, just something that's very leveled. And like Jeremy said, we're not adding any cream, so there's no dairy included in the soup, and it's also low in fat, right? We only had just a little bit, minimal amount to kind of get the aromas from the garlic and the onion.
Yeah, so what we're doing is, I'm just gonna bring this here for a
that's
second.
good.
So what we're doing is bringing this up to a simmer, and then lid on top, and then let that cook until the rice, almost want to overcook the rice. You want it to almost fall
Yeah,
apart.
yeah.
So we're looking at about 25 minutes, and it should be done. So that's going to simmer 30 minutes. We don't have that time here.
Right.
I did one ahead of time.
Oh.
So this is what it looks like. I got the camera guys chasing me. All right, there we go.
Delicious.
So it's done. It's done at this point.
Okay.
Super flavorful. If you didn't want to puree it, you can even eat it like this. It's delicious.
Yeah,
like
it looks
this.
really good.
Yeah, but we want to
Okay.
Yeah.
puree it.
And that's actually a good point, Jeremy, because it does have chunks in it, and for a lot of people that would be just fine. But we find with our kidney cancer patients, especially when they're starting new systemic therapies, that their tastes are very sensitive, and it's also texture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have to be aware. And one point I just want to get out there to our kidney cancer patients, but probably all cancer patients, eat what is right for you. Like if the only thing that you can manage to get down is mashed potatoes and butter, just eat mashed potatoes and butter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. One of our patients, all he could eat was mushy sugar crisp, and that sounds really gross, but it's what got him through.
Yeah.
So
And
eat
just
what's
to
good.
add to that, for sure, and I'm happy you brought that up, because eating well is one thing. We say lots of fiber, lots of vegetables
Yes.
and fruit, but when you're going through treatment, you have some side effects. It's really important to take note that eating well might look a little bit different, and that might not be forever. It might just be, just during this specific time. What's important is that you have the energy and the nutrients that you need so that you can continue with your therapy, your treatment, that you'll have, there's no weight loss, that you have the strength for healing and recovering. So very good point to note, and definitely something that we've always discussed throughout our classes.
All right, so carefully transfer it to a blender, or if you have a hand blender, you can bring the hand blender to your pot.
Okay.
It is hot,
Yes.
so I'm sure we don't want to ruin your clothing again. So lid off, the top lid off, and just allow the steam to escape a little bit,
Okay.
and then you just use a dish towel
Okay.
over top.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie still doesn't trust me. It also helps to plug in the blender.
I trust you.
Yeah. All right.
Because you're doing it, not me.
Smells so good, eh?
Oh my gosh, it smells so good.
So you just want to puree it until it's really
Yeah.
smooth, like you were talking about.
Right.
If you're okay with a little bit of texture, then obviously you can, you can almost go half-half.
Yep.
But we're gonna go just a little bit more.
Great.
So this is done. And oh wow,
It smells,
very
I know it smells so good and it looks great.
dramatic. And so yeah, at this point, you can put it back into the pot, but otherwise,
Yeah. And then,
ready to serve.
because someone might be experiencing diarrhea, you're losing a lot of fluids. So it's really important to replenish your fluids so that you won't be dehydrated. And, often we say, we think of fluids, we think of water, but it doesn't just have to be water. Soup counts, smoothies, juice, milk, or alternatives. So be sure to make sure that you are replenishing any water losses.
yeah.
That's a good, oh, sorry. You were talking about dairy. Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
There's dairy replacements now, and a lot of people are moving to like almond milk
Sure.
or coconut milk, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Is that interchangeable or not so much? Does it really change the recipe or?
In terms of nutrition, you know, those types of alternatives
Yes.
could add protein, you know, for somebody who,
Okay.
you know, kind of just boosting, making sure that you're getting, you know, making every bite count. In terms of cooking,
Yeah, you can absolutely use it to add a little bit more liquid if you want to thin it out a little bit.
Okay.
But you're going to add some richness, like if you added like an almond milk or like a
Not so much for our soup because we are trying to avoid dairy, but some things you can't get away from using some kind of dairy product.
right, but so an almond milk would be an alternative to dairy. There's no dairy in an almond milk or a soy milk, so that, you know, could be a replacement. I think it just depends on, you know, the recipe and if the chemical structure, like it's more of a science where you could kind of replace one or the other. In a soup, it would be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just chefing it up a little bit. You can obviously serve it
Yes,
just pureed.
beautiful.
But if you even hold back some of those cooked mushrooms to add later, and a little bit of the fresh herbs, and we'll just finish it with a little bit of olive oil.
Voila.
But that's it. That's the
Beautiful.
creamy mushroom soup with no cream.
Yeah.
All right.